Welcome to lesson 3 of the VexStrips tutorials. Today we're going to take a look at creating panel templates, because let's face it, what we want to do with VexStrips and with Inkscape is to make comics, right? So panels and creating clean panels and easy to do panels is kind of the big thing with making comics, right? You want to delineate your story and lay out your panels. And one of the great things about Inkscape is there's a really pretty easy way to do that once you get a little bit well versed with Inkscape. So we start out here on our default page, and I'm going to show you a few things, including the layers palette, align and distribute palette, and a few other things just to go through the process of creating a panel template. And then we can save that as a template. Then anytime you want to make a new page, you just open the template, save it as, strip number 3, strip number 4, strip number 5, whatever, and you can work within that template, and you don't have to go through and redo it every single time. The first thing I'm going to show you is the document properties palette, and there's a lot of things you can do with that palette. So you go to File, Document Properties, and that'll open up the palette. And there's all these different tabs. And what we want to work with today is the Page tab, because we're just going to reset up our page. It defaults to an A4 letter size, and I do a standard US letter, and then we want to actually convert it to landscape for the purposes here. So we're going to make a landscape comic template of 4 panels, and I'll show you how we do that. So in your page, or in your document properties template, you just go to page, you can adjust, and you can go to any size you want. I mean, in any standard size, architectural, A4, D4, legal, tabloid, whatever. But we're going to go to US letter, and we're going to make it a landscape. And that's all we're going to worry about. I'll eventually do a whole tutorial on the document properties palette, but right now we only want to make sure we're setting up a landscape sized letter page. Say we want to print these off for whatever, a zine or something. So we have our landscape letter size. So now we're going to want to work with layers. So what you want to do for each panel you're going to do is create a layer. So you would go to layer, and I already have the palette up over here on the right. But if it's not already up on the palette, you can go to layer and then layers down at the very bottom, and it will launch the layers palette for you if it's not already over docked in here. But it's one I use so much that for me it's defaults over on the right hand side on the palettes. So what we want to do is create a layer. We're going to start here, and normally I will create a single layer for my title and panel borders, and that'll be my top layer of my document. And so in a 4-panel template, I'm going to actually have 5 panels, and I will show you why. So then, okay, we have that layer, and that's the layer we're working in right now. So we're going to create a second layer, and when you click add layer, you can also do that through the layers menu up here, but I just use the simple tool. So you just click plus and it'll add a layer. Where do I want to add it? I want to add it below the current layer, and we're going to call it panel 1. And then we add that. Then the nice thing is it'll automatically, as you add layers, it'll just add a number. So add panel 2. Panel 3, add panel 4, and I screwed up and I actually stacked them kind of backwards. It doesn't really matter. So as I scroll down, you'll see them 1, 2, 3, 4. I normally try to stack them the opposite way, and you can actually use tools to move them too. So these little arrow tools will show you how to move the layer. So move the layer to the top. We just want to raise the current layer. Raise the current layer, raise the current layer. So now we have our title, panel 1, so we want to move panel 4 to the bottom. So you do the same thing there. You just keep finding it and moving it to the bottom there, and then we move panel 2 up 1. So now we have them 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me see if I can close this real quick. So when you hit iconify, it's the little X over here, or this little arrow rather, it will slap a panel over to the right hand side and it'll make a little icon. So these are kind of common tools that I use, but it gets them out of the way so then you can drag your layer palette out and see the whole thing. Okay, so we have our title and panel borders, and then we have all 4 of our panels for the template that we're building. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock these 4 panels because I'm not going to use them at the moment. And we're going to work exclusively in the top layer here. And what we're going to do is we're just going to draw a square. So we'll go over to our rectangle tool, and we'll create roughly what we want to be about a quarter of the page. That stroke thickness is pretty heavy, so let me go to my fill and stroke tool. And fill and stroke, that's how you draw outlines, fill with color, whatever. But we want to do just a hollowed out black border. So on the fill, we want to make sure we X that out. That means there's no fill. So if we draw something underneath that, see how it overlaps. I'm going to go ahead and delete that for now, because what we're going to do here is adjust the stroke. That's a little bit thick for me for a panel border. I think that's a little much. I usually go to inches again, just because, like I said, I like to work in those dimensions because I can think in those. I'm an old man and I'm used to the imperial standards. You can work in millimeters or pixels or even centimeters or whatever you want to do. So we're going to make that, let's go to pixels. That'll be a little easier to think. Okay, we'll work in pixels for this. So that's an 18 pixel wide in our screen view, an 18 pixel wide border. We want to go to probably like an 8. And so I just type in the number that I want. That's even a little thin. Let's go 10. There we go. That looks pretty good. I like that. So we have a border. It's empty. And on your stroke palette, your stroke style is always going to give you options. You could actually add some numbers in here and get dashes. We don't want that, but you could do interesting things with your panel borders just using the stroke styles and things like that. But right now we want to do a hard cornered black panel. So now to create a fairly even set of panels, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select the box using my direct selection or my select and transform tool. I select the box, Control C, Control V to make a copy of that box. So that actually looks pretty good. It's doing an annoying thing. So like, I don't know if you can kind of see how that you get that corner to corner little notation there. That's another thing I tend to adjust in my document properties, and it's snap, so it will automatically snap to objects that are close, and you can set how many pixels close you get to an object, and I always go to 0 or 1, whatever the lowest one is on this top snap to objects. Otherwise it gets really annoying. If you're trying to manually adjust something, it'll snap it over, and then it makes it hard to do fine-tuning unless you want it to do that. There may be reasons you want to automatically adjust something and snap to another object. Say you're linking up and trying to create a composition maybe where the exact edges of circles match in a big ring or something like that. You might want to use that snap object in that way. So I usually just try to get what I think looks pretty good, just, and you can adjust your panels and the panel widths and whatever you want to do to what you think looks good. So this will be panel 1, panel 2 in terms of when we're actually drawing. So we have a little bit of a gap here, and we haven't done our bottom one yet. So this is sort of a trick I do just to make things nice and even. And what I'll do is I'll do the selection tool, and I'll lasso both tools, and then I will go to Object, Align and Distribute. And there's also a palette for that, which is over here. And once I have those objects selected, then I will find the red line here on these tools shows you how it will align. So what I want to do is align them horizontally, and they're probably pretty close, but you might see them adjust. So you just click the alignment you want, and then I will do object group. So now I have these grouped as a single object, which makes them a little easier to work with and adjust. So let's say we want to keep we want to leave some room at the top for our title, and we want to go ahead and fill out to the edge. So now that I have them copied and grouped, I can adjust them and they'll stay the same. We may have to go in and adjust the stroke on the line a little bit when we're done here, but then you can adjust your panels out to whatever width you want. So I think that looks pretty good. Basically it fills the page. So now if we go to align and or our fill and stroke again and select that, it probably will show. See it. So one of the things that's nice and kind of a pain about Inkscape and stroke is when you're scaling objects, the stroke will scale with it. So as you scale an object down, the stroke will get smaller. So if you have a highly detailed like character or something and you scale it down, that stroke will scale also, so your detail remains proportional to your image. So sometimes you'll get variances if you do minor scaling and stuff like that to make objects fit. Your scaling might adjust, and sometimes you'll want to return that to its original width, or maybe you just like the scale. So we're going to go ahead and just leave it for now because we're just building a template, and I think it still looks pretty good. So now we have this group. So now we want to do our bottom set of panels. So we'll do Control C, Control V, copy paste, and now we have two panels. Well, now we're a little crowded, so what I want to do is I'll probably just kind of eyeball it again. So that cross in the middle, that separation, I think that looks pretty good. Again, you can make those distances whatever you want, but I think that looks pretty nice. So then we'll go back to our align and distribute palette, which is down here, or again you can do it through the object menu, align and distribute. And we want to center these horizontally. So we want all four panels or the two groups to align. So they were pretty close. So now we have them all selected. I will group those panels. So now all four of our panels are a single group, and they're all residing in this title and panel borders layer. So then what I do is I'll just adjust to the bottom of the page there and make it look nice, and then you can just scale the whole thing down so you have room for your title and like an author byline, and that's what I would normally do. I'd put the comic title by Bruce Otter or whatever. Then we will do a file, save as, and I will save this in, let's see, VexStrips website, VexStrips graphic, oops, tutorial graphics, tutorial assets. So we'll call that VexStrips panel template. Actually, we'll call that 4-panel template. And then when you're saving a Inkscape document, you could save it as any number of things. So you can save it as a plain SVG. I always save as an Inkscape SVG. That maintains the maximum editability in Inkscape. You can do compressed. You can save it as a PDF, which can be useful if you want to get things into Photoshop or Illustrator. Even HTML5 canvas if you're using Inkscape for web stuff. A Synfig animation, which Synfig is an open source animation program that uses SVG graphics and can import them and work with them. And some of the ways that we build our character kits with the various parts and eyes and arms and legs and torsos and things like that, which we'll look at a character kit build like from our BitClone document in the future. But you could save out all those individual pieces and actually use them in animations as well. That's one of the cool things about building these characters in parts and pieces. They can be used for comics, they can be used for animations and video, all kinds of things. So there we have our 4-panel template, and we again achieve that by using our layers palette. So we have 4 panels and a title and leave a little room for titles. So what I would do is, Super Comic by Bruce or whatever. And then we have the panels. And so in the next lesson, I will show you how to actually drop art into these panels and how I work with those to get clean borders and use some of the other tools for actually building out a full strip. So thanks for watching.